All right, so I'm gonna install this Amazon shower faucet. I've been skeptical of these things for years, but so far I'm pretty impressed. So make sure that you check in my description for the link to this. So far I'm really impressed. This is only about 250 bucks and it comes with everything and includes the handheld. It's got a large rain shower head that we'll be installing. But just the fact that it has the diverter valve and the mixing valve all in one little case like this looks phenomenal. I'm really excited to install this. I think it's great. I always love shower systems that have these boxes on there like this because you can seal your waterproofing all the way around it, and it's like, you know, it's bomb proof. You know, it could definitely makes it really nice and waterproof. So excellent. It also even has integral valves on it, shut off valves, so that you can shut off at your fixture. So I don't know, it's pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and get this installed. You just have indication marks on the side here that represent where you want the tile layer. Have the tiles within these blue lines, essentially. So that's what I'm going to pretty much have by the time I'm done, because I'm going to have 3/8 inch tile. You usually account for about 1/8 of an inch for a thin set, and then I'm going to have 1/2 inch backer board on the back of this. So that gives me like a total of 1 inch of depth. So if I put this up on my blocking and we measure out 1 inch, I should be right in between those blue lines with my finished wall. Most of the time, I mean, I'm using larger tile. I'm going to be using 8 by 24 tile. So most likely I'll have a thicker thin set layer than 1/8 of an inch. So this is going to work out great. So just making sure that you always have this in the correct depth is really important. So we're just going to be we're going to be using PEX. I find it to be the simplest installation is just using PEX. So I'm using all brass female adapters. They actually do come in a case where you can get like 25 of them or something like that. But really, it's going to be as simple as just Teflon taping these and threading it into the actual valve. So all I did was just put some Teflon tape, 4 to 5 revolutions around this. You want to go clockwise so that when you're threading it into your fitting, you're not back threading the Teflon tape. And you want to use a little bit of pipe sealant. This gives you extra insurance to make sure that you're not going to have any leaks. And what I like to use are these Pro crimp rings. They come in a 75 pack, but I really love these. It just saves a little bit of time. It's not like a huge time saver, but it just makes it easier because it has these little red caps on here, and it just holds. If you take it off, I mean, they're supposed to stay on there. You just keep them on there. But basically, all it's doing is keeping that PEX at the proper distance from the edge. You always want to show like about a 1/16 of a reveal on your PEX. This is my crimpers. I like these rigid ones. These things are expensive, but I like the ones that just have the actual dimension that you're using. So this is a 1/2 inch crimper. These are expensive. I mean, they're about 190 bucks, but I find that they are just easier to use. Well, that's wrong one here. So just a matter of gripping it, and then you want to use a no-go-go gauge. So this gauge right here, this will just make sure that you're getting everything. One of the things that, this just kind of keeps you honest with what you're doing. And plus, most of the time when I have a leak with PEX, it's because I forgot to crimp it. Typically around 48 inches is a normal height. They actually have a little level on this thing. So I've never seen that on any of these valves. So you can just make sure that it's level. So there's this little level on there, which is really nice. So there must be some air in the line. So we're going to be installing into a couple of these hammer restorators. These ones are made by Shark Bite. But basically I'm just going to put a T here and put these up above the valve. And then what these will do, if there's any air in the lines or whatever, this should remediate that banging of the copper. Now obviously I'm just doing everything PEX. But having this in the system somewhere should eliminate some of that problem. And then getting some tubing cutters really makes this a nice process too, because it gets you nice straight cuts. You want to have these cuts on your PEX pretty straight. You got all this extra space, So honestly, maybe I'll just go 83 inches. I still have a shower pan to install. So yeah, maybe I'll just go 83 and a half even. I think that 60 inches works pretty well. So we'll go right by here. Okay, so anytime that you have plumbing that's with really this close to the edge of your framing, you want to put some nail guards on it, just to prevent you from putting any screws in it. All right, and go all the way up again. A little bit accurate on here. You can always add more around here if you don't get the cuts right. It's not a big deal. But it'd be best if you can try to get this tight around here. I love faucets that have this because you can really make sure that everything's 100% waterproof and you're not just relying on that Escutcheon plate. I think for 250 bucks, it's a tremendous value having a rough-in valve with a diverter valve for a handheld and a shower head. First thing is just take off this cover plate, which I thought was a really great idea that they had for this. They even had a little bubble level on this thing, which was awesome. It allowed you to get everything nice and level. So I think on that aspect of this, really good idea. I would love to see other manufacturers implement this little bubble level on here. I just think it's a nice little feature. So from what I can tell, there's really not too much to this. So you want to make sure that your valves are turned on. So it should be straight, should be the on position. Okay, so that isn't on the on position. So first thing I'm going to do though is get my port on. I always like to get my port on so I could flush out the system before messing around with the valve. So we'll get our little shark bite hose adapter off of here. Usually a standard port you would recess this in about 1.5 inches, and then you can get adjustable nipples brass nipples to actually get this to come out to the right space. But the way this one's designed, it's already incorporated on the back of this. So there's really no adjustment, like this is it. So this makes me a little concerned, but let's go ahead and see if this is gonna work out. It actually just has a little set screw that this mounts on. And this is the cheap part of it. Just has a couple O-rings on there, and that's really it. So you have to be completely plugged in there for this to work properly. Okay, so we'll get some Teflon tape on this guy, because my port is stuck where it's at. There's no going back now. I already got all the towel up. There's no really adjustment there. If this doesn't work out, I'm probably gonna have to order a different type of port to make this work, because I just, if it's too far in, there's nothing I'm gonna be able to do about it. So let's just try to get this in here. Make sure you definitely have some pipe sealant on this threaded pipe. I really think that's gonna be super important. Moment of truth here on this part. I guess we'll see whether that leaks once I get this on. I really don't know. I think this is one problem people are going to mostly have with is setting these ports at the right depth. I really thought I had that figured out. It would have actually been nicer to have this a little bit further out, but we'll see. So I'm going to just hook my hose on here. So this one, they have two sides. You typically don't need any Teflon tape for this when it has a rubber gasket on it. If this leaks, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna end up taking this back plate off of here and I'm gonna cut it and get like another 1/4 inch. I think that's really always, that would have been ideal, having a 1/4 inch. Thank you, that's a very good tip there. There's a definitely, a lot of this remodeling stuff, you definitely get into just trying to fix the slight imperfections that either the home has or that you've caused yourself. And that's really the truth of carpentry. It's never quite straightforward as far as, you know, if everything was done perfectly, it would be great, but that's usually not the case. All right, so let me see which port this does. Yep, that leaks right there. Oh yeah, that leaks right out of the back of that. Okay, well, I had a feeling that this was going to be the problem point here, so I'm going to have to take that off and cut that back plate down. But I'm going to move on with this just because I'm on a live video here. Boy, that stinks. All right, so odd. This is very odd. I haven't really seen this before, but it's just a rubber gasket on the back of this. There's no screws. There's no nothing. It literally just, that's it. That's kind of cheap. It's not really, you know, there's a lot of situations where that wouldn't work out very well. But I'm going to end up probably just siliconing this. I'm not really overly concerned because this is obviously completely watertight. That's one nice thing about this box. I mean, I have the waterproofing seal there and I got this grout all the way around here, so nothing's really going to get into this. It's just you wouldn't really, I don't think you really want water getting behind the escutcheon plate. I mean, this is sitting flat and it doesn't look bad. So, I mean, it could just stay there and just be like that and be done. I might do that. I might not want to silicone it because if you ever had to take it off to turn the valve off, you'd have to cut all that out and it would make a mess. So I would leave that up to your own personal preference there. Okay, so then the valve, pretty simple. It's just a set screw on it. Okay, so that's all that is. It's just a set screw on there. And then this is the same thing here. So this is turned onto that to make this so it's square. Okay, so that's simple enough. Nothing really too much, but this is all metal too, by the way. So I mean, it actually does feel like a quality piece. So let me just get this out of here. This is the other one I'm concerned about because somebody told me when I put that rough-in valve about this being set back. This could be set back too far, which could screw me up. But I guess we'll see. So this has a longer thing on it. I think I'll just have to make sure. I'm gonna have to cut out some of that tile to twist this around and get that back in there. So this port should have been out further. Yeah, so this is so big. I mean, look how extension this is. I could get this all the way back in as far as I need to. Now I'm gonna have, like, this little gasket that I have here that I like to have would probably get ruined. So I'm gonna have to cut out that tile so I can thread this around because I'm not gonna be able to get that port back out. All right, so we'll get some Teflon tape on here now that we got that extended out a little bit. So basically I should have had my port further out. So now this is gonna have to go into the wall, and then I'm just gonna silicone around it before I put my escutcheon plate on. We do want to make sure that that's on here so that I can slide that on. Definitely use some pipe sealant on this. And I'm just going to seal around here with my silicone. Okay, so yeah, it feels like it's good. Usually no Teflon tape on this either because it usually works just fine with the rubber gasket. Okay, so we're back. I got all that noise out of the way. So just took a couple of minor adjustments. So if you didn't watch my last video, I had a problem with this Amazon valve and as far as the depth of my ports. So thanks to Troy, Troy Pod, you said it was?
Yeah, Troy
He
Pod.
gave me a recommendation of cutting this escutcheon plate back so that I can get this to prevent from leaking. So if you're gonna buy a faucet like this, be very, very careful with where you set your ports. I'm actually from now on going to make sure it comes out flush with the tile rather than being recessed back pretty much at all. So what I did for this, if I take my escutcheon plate back, all I did was cut the tile around here and then I was able to go all the way back, and then I just put some silicone against this because originally I had like a little waterproof gasket around here that I always like to have for my shower heads, but since I had to get this big square thing back further in, I just siliconed around it. So that all works fine. There's plenty of space on this arm to go back. So that was not a big deal. I mean, that really isn't too big of a deal. I would not be too upset on that particular situation because you can solve that pretty easily. Now this guy is definitely a problem. So thanks again, Troy, for letting me, I cut, basically this escutcheon plate was a 1/4 inch thick. So all I did was take my grinder and I cut it basically flush with it, and now it works in good condition. So everything else seems to be pretty well here. I'll show you basically it has really good flow. So I'm actually really impressed. This is the part that I was expecting to be a problem with it. So let's get it onto the hot setting, because obviously that's really important to make sure you don't scald your clients, obviously. But this isn't too bad. That's a decent flow. Heck, that's better than the Delta ones, you ask me. That's not too bad at all. Yeah, I guess that's all there is. You've got a push button thing on it. That's pretty good flow. That's really good flow. So this has a little push button on it. Not bad. I tell you what, if they could fix this port mechanism here, I would give this an A+. But this was the biggest problem part. So if you do a valve like this, get that port flush with your tile. And if you can do that, it shouldn't be too bad of a problem. Now the only thing I still didn't really like about it, it just has a set screw and there's a couple O-rings in the back of that. And that's really all there is to it. But I tell you what, for 250 bucks, you could probably just buy another brushed nickel port from whatever, Moen, Delta, whatever it is. It's probably only 50 bucks. And that would do it. So it would still be well under what a normal system would cost with the separate diverter and everything. So I'm not going to give it an A+. I'm going to give it a C, basically based off of the problems with these ports. But all in all, I for 250 bucks, that's really not too bad.
Would you recommend it to any more clients?
I would make sure I would order a port. I would just order, at least for the handheld. This I'm not too worried about. This I'll be able to next time know that I have to go a bit further. But this didn't bother me that I couldn't get that back there. All it did was, this escutcheon plate's really wide, so you can cut your tile and get that back. But I'd probably just order a $50 separate port and maybe the handrail thing. Or they make, Delta makes ones that are similar to this with the handheld holding port like this. So I'll probably just spend the extra 50 bucks and recommend that. But yeah, I mean, as far as the valve goes, I guess only time will tell. I'll have to actually look up some more of the reviews and see how people, like later on, years later, if it's still going good. But for this to have this much pressure in a rain shower head, I think that's pretty good. I've installed some rain shower heads that were $800 and they didn't even have the flow that this thing has. And I think it's because they have these water savers that you're supposed to put in there I obviously didn't put them in there. So this is probably, 3 gallons per minute probably. So I'll probably do one more live video later today, and that's just going over some caulking, and then I'm pretty much done with this bathroom. We'll probably just do a quick walk around and show you everything.